I'd like to call the City of Elkhorn Common Council February 7th, 5:30 meeting to order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Bruce Lechner,
Here.
Tim Sharota,
Here.
Gary Payson Jr., Ron Dunwoody is absent, Scott McClory,
Here.
Ken Minell,
Here.
Carol Young.
Okay, moving on to public comment. Anybody here for public comment tonight? Okay, we'll move on to the next consent agenda. Would council like these separated, or would we like them all together? Everybody fine with them together?
Yeah, they can be together.
Okay, so we have, first we have the council meeting minutes of January 17th, 2022. We have the temporary Class B beer and Class B wine license for Rotary Club of Elkhorn for Trivia Blarney, March 19th, 2022, from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we have the temporary Class B beer and Class B wine license for the Elkhorn Area Chamber of Commerce Oktoberfest, October 15th, 2022, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Do I have a motion?
The consent agenda, those three items.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? We have a second. Do we have any questions or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for those three items on the consent agenda. Next, report of city officers. Mayor, tonight we kind of have history in Elkhorn. We're going to be swearing in the new Elkhorn area career firefighters. And I'm going to let Rod take this over.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming, especially our family and friends of our firefighters. It is historic for the fire department and the city tonight as we swear in our first class of career firefighters, full-time career firefighters for the city of Elkhorn, which I think is a great honor to the city. And thank you people for supporting us and financially giving us the money we needed to get the job done. I really appreciate that. And I'm sure these ladies and gentlemen also. I have 10 of them. Like I say, they passed we have a 1-year probation period and also a training academy, and they passed all that, so they are ready to be sworn in to become, it'll go retroactive to January 1, but today's the first time that we'll be able to get them done. So I'll introduce them. We'll stand up there, and then we'll have them sworn in. Thanks. First is Ed Bogart. Terry Jones. Bruce Klinger. Mike Mills. Eric Schmidlkoffer. Kyle Schmidt. We have Brad Shaska. Suchka, something like that. I knew I'd butcher it. I told him I'd been practicing all day. I still butchered it. Katie Spots.
Oh.
Greg Vanderveen. And Netwit. Thank you, sir. So if you want to just turn around, and I believe our city attorney will be giving you the oath. If you can read it off the thing if you need to. Somebody's against it.
You know, you can do this oath with a child in your hands. I'm just saying.
Look, okay, come here. I know.
There we go. We're not here at the City of Elkhorn to make people unhappy. All right, so I'm going to give you all the oath of office. You'll need to raise your right hand. And when I say I, then you'll all state your name, and then we'll repeat the oath together, okay? I do solemnly swear the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Wisconsin against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as firefighter of the city of Elkhorn on the appointment of the department according to the laws of the city of Elkhorn to the best of my skills and abilities, so help me God.
Do you want to go down there, Bruce?
I'm gonna hand this off real quick.
Be in a picture? Are you sure?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Get Carol in the front, you won't let her see her. Okay.
Congratulations. We go back to you.
All right, moving on to city administrator. Jim, you have anything tonight?
I'm just gonna mention, I got some information. Looks like that trend is continuing. In 2020, residential went up 9%. Last year went up 7%. And just in the month of January, home sales in this area have gone up 5.1% in January alone. So the trend continues. And what that means, you got a lot of people selling houses for profit. You got a lot of people buying houses because interest rates are low. And it's kind of a circle that's going on. So at budget time, again, it'll mean that if the trend stays, residential properties keep going up in value, everything else is flat. And we're dealing with kind of the same thing we've been dealing with for the last 2 years. It's a good thing, but at tax time, it's maybe not the best thing. But that trend seems to be continuing. So I'd let you know moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Next, on to new business. We have Foth presentation on engineering work related to the Northeast Water Treatment Plant and findings related to the Lakeland Water Treatment back. Welcome back, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
That's really disheartening.
Except today.
Could as much as possible, if you could speak into the, do we have those microphones here, Lacey? So either, I'd like to make sure that we could hear him on the recording, so either we get a microphone or have him sit at the table. We have those microphones and,
That's not working?
well, if you wanted to talk
Oh,
to his slides.
okay.
You're okay sitting?
That's fine, yeah.
Okay, perfect, all right. Just remember to speak, thank you.
Yep, okay. Well, it's been 2 months since we were here last. I'm Dale Breckert with Foth, Nate Steffen. So we've been working pretty hard on a lot of different projects, so I just want to do an update and also break some, what I think is some excellent news, much better than we had 2 months ago. So I'll leave that to about the middle of the presentation to explain that. So some quick updates on smaller projects. We've been doing weekly operational planning meetings with Tim and his staff. Those are going really well, getting a lot of things checked off the list. We're working on the 20-year capital improvement plan. Jim, you'll be seeing a draft of that in 2 to 3 weeks, and that's going to be altered a bit by what I'm presenting tonight. The DNR corrosion control study, which is the lead and copper situation, it's fully underway. We're doing a big study, figuring out how to optimize Elkhorn's system and how they handle, corrosion control, put certain chemicals into the system to help keep the lead levels down. So that's been going really well. Nate's been working diligently on that, and we have a check-in meeting end of February with the DNR. So that'll be a very good meeting. They'll see where we're at, give feedback. They're being very helpful in this case. And I should say, Dawn, if you're here still, Dawn did put in the application, it's the last item there, for private-led service replacements. The state of Wisconsin was given a ton of money, hundreds of millions statewide, and they're going to spread this money out amongst cities and municipalities to help private owners replace their lead services in their front yards, basically. So Dawn put the application in. I believe you're going to hear back end of February-ish. So hopefully there'll be a large sum of money coming your way for that. And the arsenic removal evaluation and gravity filter optimization at the Northeast Water Treatment Plant, that's been laid out to the DNR. They're reviewing it, and we expect possibly even as early as this week a response to our game plan that we laid out. And the utility staff is prepping the plant for a green light on that from the DNR. So on to the good stuff here. 2 months ago, we came here and told you about the Centralia plant and how it's failing. That hasn't changed. But we were given the green light to look into the first 3 phases of some investigative work, some pre-design work. So I'm going to give updates on those, and we came in with some pretty interesting findings on the first topic. So phase 0 was DNR and PSC meetings. This is something whenever there's a large project, especially in the $5 to $6 million range like yours was going to be, you have to get early buy-in by the DNR and PSC, letting them know there's a huge project coming. It's going to be a lot of effort on their end to approve things, review things. So you always have these pre-application meetings where you lay it all out, show them exhibits, explain what we're doing and why. Well, as a preparation for that, we dug through about 15 years of archived PSC reports from the city of Elkhorn or your previous engineer back to them, and did a lot of digging, coming up with our own questions, looking for justification on why, $10+ million was spent at Northeast. 1 well was put in, and it's only lasting 5 years. And now we're spending a lot more money. So we wanted those answers, and we wanted to prepare for the PSC to ask those hard questions. So we had success, and I want to give you a little history here, what we found. So this goes all the way back to 2009. The PSC docket was created. That's whenever a new project like the one we're going to have is initiated, they created what they call a docket, and they assign a number to it. So this was docket ending in 103, and this was the North Plant, well 9 and well 10, all bundled up. And some very preliminary documents were shared, but in the end, it was not approved in 2012 due to lack of property ownership. It timed out, took too long to get the property. So there was a little break, and then it was reissued in 2012. Docket 104 was created. Again, it was the Northeast Plant, well 9, well 10, all bundled up. The DNR and PSC did approve it, and you guys bid it out in May of 14. It came in over budget. There was some correspondence about a rate increase potentially being on the table, but it never got formally requested, so it went for redesign. And that's what led us to your current facility, which was originally submitted back in 2015, where the notable thing is well 10 was eliminated from the project along with about half of the treatment equipment. It was approved for bid in 16, bid out and constructed in 2017. So that brings us up to today. That's the history. So the big question that we had to answer for our internal purposes, and I wanted to share it with you, is how did the PSC buy into eliminating a well and all kinds of treatment equipment that was justified in 2014, and all of a sudden it wasn't needed anymore, and it was a good investment. So we dug in and we found why. So this is boiling in a little bit deeper. When you looked back at the pre-2014 documents, they were basically, the documents were saying you needed 4 million gallons a day of treated water into the system. And they anticipated, based on some growth rates, at 2 different graphs they were tracking, that would last you till 2022 or 2040. And the big range there is they just weren't pinning down or committing to a growth rate for the city. So then they had a provision in there. They cited well 11, and they'd get another MGD out of that, and then you'd be good for another, 10 to 20 years beyond that again. So that was the justification for the original project with 2 wells. But what ended up going in, right, was well 10 was never constructed. And the 2015 design reports that they approved said that the city only needed 2.3 MGD. And then how long would that last? Well, all of a sudden they were saying that 2.3 MGD was going to last till 2040 now, because the previous reports had used much, much higher growth rates than were realistic. It was way blown out of proportion. So they redid the numbers over the year between 2014 and 2015, and they made the case that 2.3 MGD was the right investment for the city to get you, over 20 years of service. And we actually looked at those numbers, and we agree. The growth rate is appropriate. The old growth rate was astronomical. It just went exponential on these graphs, which isn't happening here. It's pretty flat and steady. So drill in a little bit more, little rewind till two months ago when I presented the situation the water utility is in. And remember that 2.3 million gallons for a second. So this is what we did, and we can go through real quick this time. But you have 3 treatment plants, Northeast, Lakeland, and Centralia. We're saying Centralia we're pretending it's not there. It's going to be decommissioned shortly. So the future of Elkhorn is 2 treatment plants. Northeast can put out 890 GPM, Lakeland 770. Those are verified numbers. That's actually what goes out the door. Which you add those up, you get this 2.39 MGD. Go ahead. But you have to take out your largest producing well whenever you operate a system. You have to plan on the issue somewhere, and you can still keep the system up. So that exercise wipes out Northeast. And I had presented this last time. Your current situation is you have 1.11 MGD. That is not 2.3. Okay, so the old report said after this project you're going to have 2.3. You have 1.1. So the numbers didn't add up. So the question is, how did they get to those numbers? And if you do the math, Lakeland would have to put 1,600 GPM out the door. And all the old reports that we dug through from 2019 and beyond said Lakeland put 1,600 out the door, which isn't true. It can't, never could. We did some quick math on the equipment they have there. And if you took the absolute maximum that the 3 softeners can put out and run them as hard as they possibly could, you can come to that number. But the reality is those softeners aren't as efficient as the catalogs say they are. So you can never get to that number. 770 is the current max. So this is another slide you saw 2 months ago where we were showing, at 1.11 where you are right now. It's insufficient supply. You're borderline on storage, fire flow, and you are sufficient in the emergency volume. So you're not in a good situation. But if that number changed to 2.3 all of a sudden, you're in great shape. And we would agree you're probably in great shape till 2040. So go ahead. What we did, light bulbs were going off with our team. We said, well, what if we forgot about all this multi-millions of dollars of work we were planning at Northeast? What if we forgot about adding well 10? What if we put the microscope on Lakeland? Could we do some alterations there to get that up to 1,600 and avoid everything else? So, we've did a lot of digging here in the last couple weeks. The radium removal through those softeners, that's that bottom picture, big tanks, that's the limiting factor right now. It's all coming down to radium and needing to stay under the maximum contaminant limit. So we reviewed the current equipment in detail, and we exercised all the avenues. If we pushed everything to its absolute max, could we do it? No, we can't do it with your current equipment there. However, we have some really good ideas to make some small improvements to that plant, and all indications say we can get there. So is 1600 at Lakeland possible? Yes, we believe it is very, very possible. However, there's going to be to do that, an addition of a radium removing chemical called HMO. It's used all over the state. It would allow Lakeland, with the addition of that chemical, to be extremely efficient in radium removal. And it's a relatively small modification to get it set up for HMO. But that includes chemical feed equipment, some controls, addition of flow meters, some piping, valving, things of that nature. And then we also have to rehab well 7 there to get it back to its original capacity. Right now, well 7, which feeds Lakeland, is struggling. It's at 38% of its original capacity. It needs a substantial rehab, but that's already planned in the CIP in the coming years. So that's really good news. If that doesn't strike you as good news, this is really good news. We have an avenue to avoid massive capital investment and stick a fraction of the money in Lakeland and get to the numbers we want. Now, that being said, Lakeland has some other issues going on. They've got doors that are rusted out at the bottom. Some pictures here showing some things. Windows are rusty and seams are breaking in the walls. They got insulation failures in the roof because of leaks. They have obsolete controls. There's a number of things that have been on the laundry list there that are in the capital improvement plan. But our thinking is we could wrap a lot of those improvements into this HMO upgrade there and get everything taken care of in one clean sweep very efficiently. Go ahead, Nate. So you're probably wondering, how would this affect the several $1 million we talked about last time with the big investment back into the Northeast and well 10? And it would eliminate the need for all of the cleaning, retesting, and resampling of well 10 itself, which you guys approved last time. That was around $70,000 right there. It would eliminate the need for constructing well house 10 entirely and the raw water line that ran out to it. That's north of $1 million easily there, maybe even close to 2. It eliminate the large equipment, piping, controls additions at the Northeast plant. There's another $1 million or 2 there. So I might have embellished those numbers a little bit, but all in all, we're conservatively saying there's $2 to $3 million in savings that we can capture extremely quickly by just focusing on Lakeland rather than the Northeast plant and well 10. Now, that being said, the reason why you're not capturing all of the costs back that we talked about 2 months ago is because there still is a need at Northeast plant for the lift station they have to be eliminated and replaced with a gravity sewer. That it is just not a reliable plant without getting rid of that lift station. So the dollars that are staying at, that we're recommending to stay at Northeast, are the sanitary sewer line, gravity sewer line, and a water main for redundant water service to the city. So all that said and done, we're still anticipating $2 to $3 million in savings from this. And the first decision that we're asking for tonight is for FOLT to proceed with full evaluation, concept design, DNR and PSC pre-conference discussions to get Lakeland up to 1,600 gallons a minute. That's what we're asking for. We would create a new phase, call it Phase 2B, under our current agreement with you, and I believe that effort's going to be somewhere between 35 and 50,000 to get that all figured out, and meetings with the DNR and concept drawings in place. So that's the first ask of the evening. Any questions on that? Okay. And then moving on to the last update is what we had called, and you guys approved last time, was Phase 2A. It was looking at that lift station and seeing if we could do that with gravity. And go ahead, Nate. So we did a basic field survey. We took shots at optional spots as places the gravity would ultimately flow to. And gravity is definitely possible, but only to the north. We looked at some locations to the south, and just the natural topography will not allow gravity flow that direction. So we can go to the north, and we definitely can eliminate this lift station, which is an absolute thorn in the operations side and ultimately the limiting factor to how much water Northeast could ever put out. So we evaluate some options. Now, I had a really nice graphic showing the options that we looked at, but last minute advice was given to me this afternoon to say, be very careful with showing options because there's going to be potential easements discussed with property owners, and I don't want to show something that would regret showing or speculate a route that you would like to choose. So there's a gray box over there right now. It's supposed to be there. You'll see that for a couple slides. So we're just going to call things different colors. So the first route went to the north. That is generally shown on here with the red arrows, but that was staying within the road right-of-ways entirely, going north on Cobb and then hanging a left on Potter, crossing 12 and 67, and there was a big connection interceptor across 67. So I listed kind of the pros and cons here. The pro is that there was no new easements. That's why I can show that one. However, there's a long list of cons. It's the longest route. There's 2 creek crossings, which are absolute havoc. There's crossing Highway 1267, which is extremely busy, extensive rehab, list goes on and on. Ultimately, it's extremely expensive compared to other options we looked at going north. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's eliminated. The other route to the north was the pink route, and that is the shortest route. However, by going north, and it was cutting over somewhere before Potter, there's a ton of wetlands and actual mapped floodplains, environmental corridors through there. They don't even farm it. It's so wet, it's protected. So I have a laundry list here of negatives, but in a nutshell, it would be a permitting nightmare. It would take a lot of time and money. It would be more expensive due to likely boring or open cutting in a wetland area and extreme dewatering measures. I have this word on here called mitigation. What that is whenever you cut through certain quality wetlands like these are, you need to send a check to the state to go create wetlands somewhere else because you ruined some, so now you have to go build some. And the factor on that is usually 1.7 to 1 or 2 to 1. So you're actually building twice as many wetlands than you disrupted. So we guesstimate that would be about a $150,000 check that would just be sent out for that alone. So it is a little bit shorter. However, conclusion, the additional costs and efforts of all these red items on the list far outweigh the 700 feet of pipe we would save. So then there's a green route that is highly recommended by us on all measures. The least amount of easements, there would be easements required. However, we would be tracking down an existing easement in place as far as we could, which would save a lot of easement work and engineering, permitting efforts go way down. We're avoiding the lion's share of all wetlands or protected areas. So there would be one wetland delineation needed at one point here, but which was already done when the original project went in. However, it's more than 5 years later, so you have to redo it and resubmit, make sure nothing changed. So that's the one negative to this route. Anyway, it's the overall lowest cost, it's the lowest risk, and it'd be the fastest by far. So I wish I could show you it, but I'm not going to. So the second ask of the night is for FOLF to proceed with the green route. The field survey, and I have a list of things that this would include: field survey, preliminary design sheets, the wetland delineation I talked about, PSC DNR wetland correspondence, preparing all the easement legal descriptions and exhibits that you would need to ultimately meet with these property owners, following the proper Wisconsin protocols for that. We'd obtain the title sheets reports. We'd coordinate with the appraiser and negotiator when needed, preliminary staking. We do the record easements. So laundry list of things. Second ask for tonight is that both proceed with all those items. And it would be under the existing easement 3AB, which we've already have signed with you guys, but we're trying to just take this in steps and get approval as we make progress. So that estimated effort likely would be about 70 to 80,000 to get all that done. So those are the two asks. I can review those if you want. First one was Lakeland, getting up to 1,600 gallons a minute. The second one was proceeding with the necessary documents for the green route.
Make a motion to approve.
Wait 1 second, Scott.
Oh.
We gotta move on to the next thing before we can
Oh.
approve. So I gotta ask for questions first. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So when the last time you were here, we approved 70,000? Is that what we approved? So whatever money that we approved the last time, how much of that is spent or can be converted into one of these asks?
Question, I should have thought of that. I don't know exactly off the top of my head. However, I do know the phase, I think it was 1A was all of the testing, so it was the well 10 retest, repump, cleaning, rehab it. So that right there was about $70,000 that we are not pursuing. It was televised, that was it. It was a small amount to televise it. And then I'd have to look back at the numbers, to be honest with you. I don't want to make something up that's not accurate, but I'd say whatever you approved last time, we got outside of the wells items, we got about halfway through before we came across the Lakeland situation and the opportunity there. And then we stopped with that and looked into that from that point on. So what you're approving tonight, I'm off the hip. I don't want to say it's a complete wash. I think it's more than you approved last time. If you deducted what you approved last time and you added this in, it's going to be a little bit more. It's not a total wash. It's not significantly more. It's a really vague answer. I wish I had those numbers. I can get those to you easily.
Yeah, I think that's very important to know. You know, are we
Yeah.
talking about both of them? Are we talking about part of it? Because we've already approved some of it. And I think that's important to understand. I'm very happy to see what
Yeah.
I see. I was very concerned about $6.5 million. So
Yep.
it's a positive for me. But I still think we have to understand what we're talking about here because it is the people's money.
Yeah. So what I could do with that, Jim, maybe you're the one I could go to with that. I could put together an email. Here's where we're at after the first 3 phases. And then with these additional ones, we could do the numbers real quick in an email. We would I would want to amend our agreement anyway for this added Lakeland work to get that language captured in there. So we could bundle that up in one email and have it all in one spot. If you're the one I would go to with that. Oh, yeah, I should say that's a good point, Tim, thanks. So a good portion of what you approved last time was that the lift station and sanitary sewer evaluation. That's all a go still. None of that that's all been a good investment, and we're proceeding that route. So it's really just well 10, which 90% of that never got spent, and then the PSC DNR pre-approvals, which was initially geared towards the Northeast plant, but now it's going to be re-geared and redone for Lakeland. So yeah, we can summarize the numbers pretty easy.
Can I ask a question?
I was actually going to ask you, how is this going to affect what we have to do?
Well, I think, here's what I'm hearing, and you tell me if I'm getting it right. You're wanting to amend the plan that you submitted before and then get approval
Yep.
of the amended plan.
Yes.
And that will involve some changes in the money. A lot of the back-end money goes way down, as you've identified, but some of the front-end money will be up a little bit. Am I correct?
In the end, the engineering fees are going to be way down too.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not. Nate was giving me a hard time. He said, what are you doing to us here?" This greatly reduces the engineering efforts.
Okay.
I mean, to the tune of probably 50% lower.
So I think we approved the concept plan, or we should say the council approved the concept plan at some point. And I would think it would be, you could make a motion similar to what Scott was making, where you'd approve both to go ahead with a modified concept plan and to submit that to us with an understanding that we're going to have to vote on the actual money at a different council meeting.
Yeah.
That's the way I perceive it.
Yeah. So the reason why we've been avoiding the actual dollars is because we've been in a what is the scope mode for 2 months now still, and it's changed significantly again now. So we're getting to a point once we verify Lakeland is doable and the PSC and DNR buy-in, where we can finally itemize the scope. This is exactly what we're doing, and we can put efforts to that much easier than where we're at right now. Right now, we're in a very malleable stage of trying to figure out what is the best way to get this done. So we're on a T&M basis right now, basically.
The meetings that we're having with DOJ and DNR, and you're participating in those, and going forward, you'll have to participate some more. Are those included in these meeting and planning meetings that you were talking about here, or would that be something separate?
No, so there's 2 agreements Folt has with the city right now. One is for what we approved 2 months ago to get going on this project. And then the other one is for, if you recall, from the start of the presentation, we had a number of different operational items and investigations we're doing outside of this project. The CIP, the corrosion control, all that falls under a general engineering and administration agreement where we have all those phases itemized. So that work, that falls under that general engineering administration.
And when you were giving your presentation earlier, I thought I heard, and I want to make sure, because Jim and I were talking about this before we went on to the record of the meeting tonight. I thought I heard you say you are going to be able to get a response from DNR maybe as soon as this week on the pilot project that we were talking about. Is that correct?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, we're hoping to. There's some emails that kind of came through last Friday.
DNR meeting that you are having, that you scheduled, will it be the same individuals that could respond to that issue, or different individuals?
It's the wastewater and the drinking water group. Yes, it'd be both.
Okay.
Because in order to make that happen, we have to pump water to verify the equipment and chemical feed doses.
Both has been doing this work for the city and trying to get a response out of the DNR and has not been able to get said response. So if they're in the same room with you, it seems hard for them to not respond. So that's why I was asking that question.
Yep, it's generally the same group
Okay.
on both ends. So yeah, in that, to respond to that a little bit, they have been, as of recent, quite responsive. They aren't answering every question quite directly as we'd like, but they're chipping away at the answers, and we're getting there.
They're at least answering your emails and phone calls now.
They are.
Acknowledging.
Yes, yeah. They like what we're doing. They're on board. It's just a process on their end. There's a lot of baggage going in the back of this one, so they need to be a little careful, and they can't just.
So to answer the
quickly.
original question, I think the motion would be to approve both to go forward in concept and submit the altered plan so that we could approve the money numbers next time.
Does council have any other questions on the presentation?
Yep.
Well, 10, when would that need to be built then? When,
So it would be after 2040. is the way the latest graphical representation of population growth here. The way that line is kind of very flat but slightly going up, we would near needing more capacity around 2040 if it holds where it's been for the last, say, 20 years growth rate. There was a large growth here, and some of you might have been here in the, if I recall from the graph, it was the 70s, 80s, 90s, even up to 2000. Growth, I don't know what happened, industry came to town, something happened, and it was a pretty aggressive growth rate. And then post 2000, it really flattened out and plateaued. So the 2040 projection is based on that plateau, maintaining that slope. And the report makes a pretty good case it will. So this would be a long-term investment into Lakeland that would last a long time. And we also have a little idea, I should probably save it, but we have another possible opportunity at well 6 that would potentially avoid well 10 in the future if we could do some improvements to that. That currently feeds the Centralia plant, which would be decommissioned, but there might be an opportunity to keep that alive, decommission everything else except well 6, and do a small little pilot treatment, or not pilot treatment, a small packaged treatment skid, basically. And that would potentially buy 10 to 15 plus more years just with that one well if we did that. So we're trying to exercise all these thoughts and opportunities to make the right investment and be able to justify it and look at all the other options. And that is one option for the future. So.
I do have another question now since you brought that up. So if we're going to pursue well 10 at some point in the future, when would be optimum time to do that without creating a bunch of chaos? So we could, if we had to put it into a capital plan, we had time to plan for it.
Well, I think we'd revisit that, looking at growth, say 2030. Yeah, I would agree. 2030 would be a good time to revisit that and just see if we're right on that curve, or if something came to town, a lot of people are moving in, Amazon put a big shop up or something right now, things might accelerate a bit. Yep.
Any other questions from council on the presentation? Okay, now we'll move on to the discussion and decision on FOF proceeding with next steps. Scott?
I don't know how to say it better than Wade Ward did, but that's my motion.
I thought you would remember my name after all this time.
So Scott's motion is moving forward with FOF to bring us back with the dollar amount and amend it so we can vote on it the next meeting.
Yeah, sure.
Does that sound right? Is that right?
As long as Lacey and Ward understand what it's supposed to do.
And I second.
We have a motion and a second. We have any discussion or questions on that? Roll call, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Gary Payson Jr.,
Yes.
Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Carol Young, Ken Minell.
Yes. Motion passed. Thank you guys for.
Yep. So just to be clear, so we should proceed on this
Yes.
tomorrow,
Yeah,
in
get
theory,
the
but
numbers,
we'll
get
follow
them-
up with the numbers. Should we be here for the numbers discussion, or is that just something we would send in for the agenda?
Well, I mean,
Probably be here
That'd
just,
be a good idea.
Okay.
just in case we have questions again.
Sure. All right. Great. 2 weeks. Okay, perfect. All right, well, thank you.
We should be able to get that on the 21st then, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, for sure. It's our next council meeting. We can get that on if you guys are.
Yeah, we'll make it work.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep,
Looking
thank
forward to
you.
it. Yep.
Next, we have the ordinance number 22-01, City of Elkhorn, Morsi Drive rezone. This is second reading. You guys approved the first reading last time, so we gotta finish it off here. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve second reading.
Do we have a second? I'll second. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for the second reading. Now I need a motion to approve. Is that right?
no, it's done.
Okay, we're good then. Motion passed. Ordinance number 22-01. Next, discussion and decision on rezoning of the northwest corner of I-43 and South Lincoln parcels. You see the parcel numbers from M2 to A1 that did go through Planning Commission Thursday night, and it was approved to move on to council.
I make a motion to approve.
Got a motion, I gotta get a second, then we can talk. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second? Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Just like the last agenda item, this actually needs to be an ordinance form, which it is not at this point. That's what Bonnie would normally do. We talked about, moving it forward, and I didn't even think about that, but I guess she normally does the ordinance for rezoning.
You'll have-
Otherwise, it could be approved and the mayor could sign off on it when the ordinance is actually done. That's the other option.
We should have the ordinance before council before it's voted on.
I don't think this is anything that's gotta be done right tonight. I mean, we're just
Bring it back
switching it
to
over to what it should be, what it's being used for, basically, the land.
It's,
So-
right.
Yeah, I think, well,
Home to
Postpone.
February 21st.
yeah,
Council
there you
meeting?
go.
Would you like to rescind your second and motion?
I'll rescind that. Motion to postpone it to the 21st, our next meeting.
Second. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed to postpone till February 21st. Next, Resolution 22-04 to extinguish special assessment liens for the TID 3 properties.
Basically, TID number 3 was, I closed that in 2017. There was an unusual TID, and there was a myriad of parcels that were involved, and they even got split up and became bigger. So when we closed it, the ones that we were aware of, so they didn't have any liens on them anymore. There's lots of them out there with liens, so in order to clean this up, Ward was able to come together with this that will sweep over all of TID number 3 and remove all these liens, and we won't have to deal with people that are trying to close, and then this comes up. So that's what this does.
Otherwise, we were gonna do hundreds of these and record them all. So this is one recording to solve the problem, and this is with the approval of Chicago Title and with the approval of the Register of Deeds, this format that we came up with.
Questions, discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for Resolution 22-04. Next, discussion and decision on execution of change order number 1 for the 2021 Elkhorn Street Program.
Questions? So is this stuff that we have to do now? Or is this stuff that we already did and it's just coming back?
This would be stuff that was already done. I do want to clarify one of the items on there, though. There was a question about the water service size. So there was 1-inch plan for the project, and a couple of the existing services out there were 1.25 inches. So they did not use the 1-inch item. They ended up using a new item of 1.25 inches, which was $3 more lineal foot. So the increase of was it 68? I'm talking just for the 778 lineal feet.
Oh, yeah, 62.
62?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that virtually only goes up like $2,223. You multiply 3 by that 778. If I'm memorizing that correctly.
Essentially, we're planning on 1 inch, but most of it was 1.25 inches. We did use some 1 inch, but a lot of the 1.25 inches. So they didn't have a price for 1.25 inches. So overall, the dollar amount is actually less because we didn't do as much quantity, just because there wasn't as long lengths and whatnot. So it looks like an addition, but it's not an addition. It's actually less than the plan, but we had to show it in a change order so that we could pay them, I guess, it was kind of the cleanest way, so.
Any other questions?
Make a motion to approve it.
Motion to approve change order number 1. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have a second? Any other questions, discussion? Roll call, please.
Gary Pearson Jr.,
Yes.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young,
Yes.
Tim Sharota.
Yes.
Motion passed to approve change order number 1 for the 2021 street project program. Next, discussion and decision on offer to purchase parcel YOP 00240 South Broad Street. That's the piece of property next to the fire department for the little parking lot that we want to put in and that little shed. I think the purchase price, Jim, was 60.
61.8, I think.
Any questions?
So I have a question on the contract. I think it's a typo. It should be block 26 and north 20 foot, not 7.
Where are you at now?
Line 4.
Oh, okay, sure, we can fix that. This is, yeah,
I saw it on the.
7 or an and?
Keyboard. It's either a 7 or it's a and.
right.
So
Well, we'll figure it out and we know which parcel that we're buying, so.
that's a good catch, though. I didn't catch that.
Well, it's 2 lots. It's got 2 lots on it. That's
Right.
why I bring it up.
Right.
You guys didn't think I read this stuff.
Well, I had no doubt.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the parcel with the correction that Ward's gonna do for us, or the confirmation or whatever.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Second. Any questions or discussion?
Yeah, I had a question. When we were discussing the Bateman Park shelter, I think we, was this the parcel, Jim, that you said we weren't gonna purchase for parking? That's a
The one
different
next to it.
parcel?
That was one next to it.
Oh, okay. All right. Good enough.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Scott McClory,
Yes.
Ken Minell,
Yes.
Carol Young, Tim Sharota,
Yes.
Gary Pearson Jr.
Yes.
Motion passed to offer to purchase. Next, discussion and decision on exempt employee overtime. I know the chief brought this one forward. Please, you like to,
Correct.
if anybody has any questions for him, or?
Make a motion to approve the recommendation from the chief.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any other questions, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed for the exempt employee overtime. Next, I need a motion to adjourn into closed session.
I'll make a motion to move into closed session.
Do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we will reconvene in open session for possible action. So we're back in open session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.